photos, memorabilia, and sitting with my stories, I became increasingly aware of a double data. One thought, the other sensed. Taking choreographer Deborah Hayes' concept of re-perspective, I invite you to witness a creative response to the making of a performance piece that I presented as part of my Dalcroze studies in Geneva in 1999. My inspiration was the Welsh myth of Blodeuwedd, from the Mabinogion, the woman conjured from flowers and exiled as owl. Body. This body. These bodies. Flower body. Body becoming owl body shapes the landscape, shapes the body. Two sets of data, one flower, one owl. The former, a matter-of-factness of this and of that, of inherited history, a land of opportunities. The innocence of blossom, cascading, multiplying, signifying health, yet bird-like murmurations, carrying missives of whispered secrets over bodily terrain, industrious, incessant, through lowland, from crevice to fold, to burying textured fragments in sealed-off places, and then the owl's screech. Oh, how I crave the quiet, for all sound to crouch to ground, and yet I fear it. For in that eerie silence through which the body speaks to itself, I begin to hear. Owl ear bending down low to reveal in that same quiet a gripping terror that hunts and ravages those places that had believed they could be still. A learnt behaviour, a wearing of a habit, some would call it. Staring at the hoops, suspended, silent, my mind fixes on their enclosedness, turning round and round and round, finding no point of entry. Do you remember the skipping rope in the playground? A girl each end, coordinating its movement, 1, 2, 1, 2, relentlessly, rhythmically, as the rest of us stood at the side in line waiting our turn. But when to enter without being caught up in the tangle? How do you know? There is a knowing. Heart beating, shame rising, frozen. Advance, trust, move, enter the play. I think I never did. Staring at the hoops, suspended, silent, where does she end and I begin in this ever yet before time? The knowledge of then and the knowledge of now bleeding into pre-knowledge. The mercurial will-o'-the-wisp not known and yet so known. The inside out, the wrongly fitting garment knowing, the primordial felt knowing that pushed me to seek relief in small corners, the containment of stairwells, the respite of toilet cubicles. And here, the boundaried offering of simple wooden hoops. Temporary solace in an overwhelming gestalt. Staring at the hoops, I'm told my left brain hemisphere is in charge of the step-by-step business of life. The representation of the now with its control and safety. Ian McGilchrist's emissary tells me I have a task to do, a time in which to do it, and despite significant lack of skills, I will and must complete. Insofar as this resonates with my known experience and habit of living, all is well. I focus on the practicalities, quietening the white noise. A can-do girl, reliable, dependable, loyal. She's the sort of person we want around in a crisis. Someone who breaks that crisis into piecemeal, manageable pieces and ticks them off one at a time. A fragmented girl, except it's a secret. Staring at the hoops, one can be tempted to focus only on what is seen, rather than also what is known. But by looking closely enough with the eyes of a haunted spirit, one begins to understand that knowing is more a listening than a seeing, a practice of being attuned to the echoes and murmurs of that which has been lost but which is still present, in the form of intimations, hints, suggestions, and portents. As I listen through the seeing, I understand Avery Gordon's Ghostly Matters that allows the things behind the things to be. My intuition, a ghost of the future, brought me the hoops, placed me on their periphery to wander, to tussle, to play out in discomfort, an acknowledgement of the pained sense that had brought me to this place. Staring at the hoops, suspended, silent, she arrives as flowers and leaves as owl. A transformation, or is it called a metamorphosis? A shape-shifting exercise not of her choosing. There was no choice. Butler says that when we tell our stories, we perform our identity. Blodeuwedd, flower, woman, owl, either, or, also, and. Now I can choose. I take my dispersed, frayed memories and thread them gently through one another, honouring absence within presence, weaving an identity of hybridity, refiguring a past that is never closed, but always revisited.
Now we're going to move to my friend and colleague, Bethan.
Thank you, sir. Come on in and listen to me. I'm bathing in wisdom, the mighty tree. Shoulders so wide you can lean upon. If you're looking for answers, I'm the one. This is an excerpt from a song called The Tree Song that I wrote in September 2003, just before I submitted my PhD, which focused on the experiences of men with severe and enduring mental health problems. The song's lyrics contain a heavy dose of irony. I did not feel bathed in wisdom. I did not feel my shoulders were wide enough for others to lean upon. I did not feel that I had many answers. Not to the questions that mattered, anyhow. And I'm not sure how much has changed. I'm learning to be more compassionate with myself about this, with my perceived lack of wisdom, with relatively narrow shoulders, with so many questions, yet so few answers. The most helpful mental health practitioners in my experience are often similarly minded. They tend to harbour doubt over certainty, humility over arrogance, careful questions over clumsy answers. It is necessary to be this way, because in mental health, we're dealing with a complex system. At times, a mind-bogglingly complex system. It was over a century ago that the naturalist and environmental philosopher John Muir wrote, quote, "When we try to pick out anything by itself, we find it hitched to everything else in the universe." His words, I think, apply to research across many, perhaps all, areas of human experience. They certainly apply to mental health. So many factors interact in complex, culturally, historically situated ways. Family, relationships, trauma, physiology, biochemistry, economics, safety, stigma, nutrition, opportunity, faith, oppression, luck. The list goes on and on. And the more we focus in, the more we miss or exclude. How can we do meaningful research? Research that tries to help people who are really struggling from here. How do we go about doing research when the phenomena that most urgently need investigation may be beyond observation, beyond measurement, beyond sometimes expression through language? In the foreword to her 2009 book, Listening to Grasshoppers, Field Notes on Democracy, Arundhati Roy expresses concern that she might be, quote, "allowing myself to be railroaded into offering prosaic, factual precision, when maybe what we need is a feral howl, or the transformative power and real precision of poetry." Is there a place for a feral howl in mental health research? Might the transformative power and real precision of poetry and other lyrical forms of expression bring something to the table that's necessary? This song is called Cover Me Now. There's a lot of reasons to stay afloat. There's a lot of ways out we don't care to talk about. There's a lot of trains wrecked in the stations. There's not a lot of time left, so why are we waiting? Told me so, I took it to heart. Black autograph left there at the start. What good are witnesses who only laugh, or turn and face away, choose an easier path? Well, through it all I was calling him to cover me now. Cover me now, cover me now in love. There's a lot of reasons to stay afloat. There's a lot of ways out we don't like to talk about. There's a lot of trains wrecked in the stations. There's not a lot of time left, so why am I waiting? You saw it all in one afternoon. The world turned away half a lifetime too soon. But you took him down with a silent sound. Yeah, you stood by me, you turned my chances around. Now I've ended up with your muscles somehow. And you cover me now. You cover me now. You cover me now in love. In love. In love. Reasons to stay afloat, and there's a lot of ways out we don't like to talk about. There's a lot of change wrecked in the stations. There's not a lot of time left, so why are we waiting?
So for the people online, if Candice has put a link in the chat box that when you hear the sound of music, perhaps you can click her link, and so hopefully you'll get a better experience. This is a song for Norman. Scene 1, Department of Exercise, Nutrition and Health Sciences, January 2000. If poetry is what you want to include in your research, my supervisor said, throwing the draft of my chapter into the air, then you're on your own. But I wasn't. The second edition of the Handbook of Qualitative Inquiry became my supervisor. It guided me, encouraged me, fed me, gave me a firm theoretical basis, and offered me multiple lenses through which to bring social justice and care to my research. Thank you, Norman, for assembling that cast. Scene 2, 2005, from over the ocean. Come on, David, I said, we have to go. Two no longer PhD students about to embark on their first postdoc research venture to America. That's him, I whispered. But how to find the words to express what happened during my doctoral research? Thank you, Norman, I said. He seemed to know already. He seemed to know the challenges, the battles that we would be facing. I bless the day. Scene 3. Bless the day I attended that first public engagement conference. Tim Butcher, my friend and colleague, said after the 10th International Conference of Autoethnography, citing when we first met. I think I blessed the day I attended the first Congress of Qualitative Inquiry, and Norman provided an example of how to run a conference, how to include folk in the journey, create space for diversity for the novice, how to bring people together, and how to fix your eyes on the work. I learned this from Norman, I said to Tim. We both blessed that day. Scene 4, 2003, Bodies Together Again. Nearly 2 decades after the inaugural ICQI, friends gather. Where is he? We hear he's been unwell. But we hope, each of us and me, that he'll turn up at the back of my session. It's happened before. He was why we went there. ICQI made it possible to establish connections with people all over the world, to forge friendships I would never have otherwise made, to be moved by scholarship, inspired, like our keynote, Christopher Poulos. Being given opportunities to write and publish with and by people like Bryant, Keith, Alexander, who opened possibilities for me to create and share my work because of what Norman did. Scene 5, change and resist. My father died when I was 21, and I met Norman 20 years ago when I was 43. And my father, in the few years I knew him, gave me many lessons for life. And what of Norman's work? Who will point you a direction for your moral compass? Who will provoke you to action? In his last newsletter, Norman painted a vision for the world and all its failings and urged, this is the world qualitative inquiry is called to change and resist. Scene 5. When I cannot speak my heart, maybe I can sing my soul, David said. We've woken early to catch the sunrise over Dawn's Mearn. This is the Cornish name for the Merry Maidens, a Neolithic stone circle sitting deep in the Cornish countryside. These are 19 granite megaliths standing in a stone circle, lichen growing deep into their faces. They seem to stand against the passing of time, as if standing guard over something that cannot be spoken, sacred, existing outside of time. And David and I are there in the hope that this space, this place, would inspire us to write and perform a keynote. And it did. And a song. Scene 6. Was Norman the pilgrim? 4 years later, when the sad news reached me that Norman Denzin had died on the 23rd of August, 2023, the stones spoke back. Is Norman the pilgrim envisaged in the song, surrounded by saints, now with us through his legacy, his writing, and the people whose lives he's touched, still signaling the way and guiding our path, provoked us to change the world? Onward we go. This song is dedicated to Norman Denzin and his work. It's sung by the community of critical autoethnographers, and the film is made up of a collage of films that they sent in.
I'm surrounded by ghosts. I'm surrounded by saints.
Surrounded by folks who care, who speak their truths.
Chiseled from stone to lead no one alone. Pilgrim, you journeyed so far. Your eyes have been opened and carry the scars of those who seek, and the swirling behold what's more precious than gold, peace, hope, and love.
I think we have a generous amount of time for us to think and reflect on the panel, and then maybe questions that you would like to offer. So I'm literally going to ask you for us to take a moment of pause, a moment of silence, a moment of reflection in memory and in memoriam and hope of a can-do boy, of a can-do girl, and reasons to stay alive. Let's just take a moment. This panel circulates around the notion of performance autoethnography. And there are a wide variety of definitions of performance autoethnography. And I want to offer this as a prompt for any questions that you have, a definitional frame that comes from in the moment of my own engagement. I'm thinking here that performance autoethnography can be referenced as publicly embodied and are somatically rendered critical reflections on personal, cultural experiences or encounters that shaped our sense of being, shaped our sense of becoming. Applied to these presentations, Bethan, David, and Kitrina, where the mode and modality of their engagement give meaning to their experience, to their form of chosen expression, their being and their becoming, that draws us all into their experience, generatively inviting us to reflect upon our own autoethnographic lived experiences that are never the same and never not the same. Questions, comments, reflections. I'm coming at you with the mic.
It's not so much a question, but it might come. I was really moved by what I just witnessed, so thank you so much. And I just wanted to tell you a little story. So when I was younger, I grew up in Cornwall, and I gravitated to things like songs, particularly things like Lauryn Hill. And it's more so because I didn't see myself in the community around me, but I saw myself in community in music. And I think I'm a student now, and I probably will continue to be a student even after I get my doctorate. And I've really been searching for a research methodology, and I think this is the closest thing I can get to seeing how I am as a human and the way I see the world, also reflected in the methodology. So I just wanted to thank you so much, and I really love the variation autoethnography and the performance side of things. And it just made me think about me being a little girl and connecting in that way, because I just don't think this is available. It's very unique. Thank you. I don't know if you guys have got stories about how you gravitated towards it.
How we gravitated to the things that we've been doing.
Yeah, so the methodology that you use in terms of like research as well as music.
For me, it was because what I was doing previously failed to communicate what I experienced when I was with the people I was doing research with. And so I've been seeking to find ways to put back what was missing. And it's music has been a massive way, and also now documentaries and things like that, to include things that can't be said in narrative form. So they're things that moved me. Do you want to speak on that?
Thank you for your response. You quoted the John Lennon line from the song Julia. No, it wasn't. You can credit me. When I cannot sing my heart, I can only speak my mind.
So I think that's maybe where it started for me, as listening to music and realizing there was a whole world that I wasn't like you, I wasn't finding outside of music. And I think maybe 20 odd years later, doing my first qualitative research with that group of men, just feeling that whatever I did to the data, their stories just took away. I really resonated with yours actually in particular. You talked about roaring, and then you seem to roar in your song, and you also talked about love. And that's something that I'm grappling at the moment. So I talk about love and introducing it into the clinical practice, and I talk about love and how we can introduce that in the clinical practice. A lot of our NHS trusts talk about compassion, but they won't go as far as stepping into love. And I find that fascinating. And I'm finding today actually it's speaking to lots of different parts of my practice, and your song was one of those. I love the connection between roaring and love, and I just thought it reminded me of activists. You know, they're doing it out of love and compassion because they need something to change, but they're not always. You can't always do it really quietly. you have to roar. Sorry.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank you because you've given me a gift by what you've just said, because I just wrote down that you're searching for a methodology. So am I. So that's great. If you heard something in mine, that's been an affirmation and a gift for me. So thank you. So my first career was as a musician, as a violinist. So when I came to do some research into my own experience of a music and movement pedagogy, which is Dalcroze, I had to show it, because we don't read about Dalcroze, we do it to know what it is. So I just thought I had to part ways with my first supervisor, because she was asking me to do a social science chapter, this, and I was just going, really? I don't think so. So I'm kind of going it alone, and I'm making it up as I go along. But I'm finding recently that I'm finding my voice. And so thank you. I just feel I need to find a way that's true to me, and then all the things I read affirm my intuition. So I've come about it completely the wrong way, but I'm happy.
Excellent. Chris, did you have something? And then I also want to make sure that we're inviting our friends and colleagues online. And so if you could sort of open up the screen so that we can see if anyone has their hand up.
I just want to say thank you. Kitrina, your tribute to Norman, I lost it in the middle of it. Because I wouldn't be here without what he did, the connection, and I wouldn't know you and David, and so forth, and just thank everyone. But David, what you said at lunch about your guitar bringing out the roar in you, that came true. I've heard him play a smaller guitar in the States, and he's not as loud. But the guitar is part of you, and it brought the bigger dreadnought guitar really made your voice you had to boom out over it, right? And I'm interested in that physical embodied connection, because I'm trying to learn how to play guitar, but this is all so beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Elise, Lamb, Pinot. Yes, my friend.
What an incredibly moving panel for all sorts of reasons, and the ways that we are entangled in people that we have known and that we are getting to know here. Bryant, kind of picking up on how you defined performative autoethnography, all three of these really made me think about how autoethnography gives permission to the eruption of an authentic voice, not authentic in any kind of authentic in the sense of raw experiential. I have seen each of these people, a couple that I know quite well, but Bethan, I have seen you, before. To see you with your violin, that resonance, that coextensiveness between your instrument, the physical instrument that you are playing, your voice, the images are beautifully fused together in a kind of voice that is, I think, uniquely you, uniquely so. And such a delight, and how moving to see that again. David, whenever you sing, you have a rawness, as if you are reaching into your deepest existential wounds and giving that voice, right? Reminds me of a Janis Joplin-esque, like from the raw, that's coming out. And Kitrina, I have never known you to stand without a whole community around you. And this presentation with the ghosts, the echoes, giving honor to Norman really exemplified that, not only through the skill in imagery and in song, but your fact of always being the person who gathers and makes a community and makes sure that that community is front and center with you. So all of you just embodied for me the best of performative autoethnography, embodying community and authenticity in the service of something greater than any one of us. And it's certainly a panel I will take with me through the rest of the day. Thank you.
Very nice, very nice. Other questions, comments, reflections? Yes. We're going to come here.
And thank you, all three of you, very, very much. I've thoroughly enjoyed that, and it's very good for me as I'm still battling to find my voice in my autoethnography. As I have, I'm surrounded by ghosts going around my head. I find a connection between that and Bethan, your owl, this ghostly owl, and your mention of being haunted, and I'm really struck by kind of witnessing all of you kind of delving into these depths. My research is much more kind of focused on what I'm doing at the moment, so I'm writing about things from last week or maybe last year, and I don't really have a question, but I've just found it really interesting to see these ghosts, these owls, this murmuration of spirits kind of haunting us and coming out in your research in really, really beautiful ways. So yeah, I don't know if you wanted to add. I mean, I really want to speak to you more about this haunting, but I don't know if this is the forum later. Yeah, thank you very much.
I think I have just maybe a thank you because I feel so generous the way all of you brought yourselves, and it made me again like it's so embodied, and I felt as if, although I didn't even know Norman, or I've come to autoethnography I think 3 years ago, that it's so generous the way you share your relationships, and also that I can really tell that it's lived. It's not just about what's on the page, but it's really a lived research, and I feel as if then we're kind of allowed to be part of it. So yeah, thank you.
I can't see her. Sally. Hey, Sally. Please.
Hi, guys. Thank you for such a lovely panel. Kitrina, can I just ask, did that really happen that they threw they threw your chapter in the air?
Yes. That's exactly what my supervisor, he said, if you're going to do poetry, you're on your own. So I wrote the chapter and give him his due. This is the second part of the story. He came into the department having read my poetry chapter, singing, "Now I understand what you tried to say to me and how you suffered for your sanity."
Oh, well, I'm really pleased because I was listening earlier to Rolf in one of the, and then Freaks, Freak Sanders was talking about, and there's something around you saying about Norman Denson being like a beacon, and that you know, don't want to make you. I know you all get a bit shy, but you know, you guys have been beacons for me, and as have others. But there's something around that I just don't understand when somebody either doesn't understand. I'm talking about academics now. Either doesn't understand or just wants to take that position of they can't. It's almost like they can't take a position of just being different. It's they're different and better. I don't know if anybody wants to say anything, because I really believe that, you know, when we're sharing qualitative or autoethnographic in particular, that we're not trying to say this is better than, we're saying it's different than, and these are different ways of exploring. I don't know if any of you want to comment about that, because obviously I love the performative. I have a background in drama.
Can I just say before I pass it on, I don't really care what people say, and I'm not in an argument with anybody. I'm focusing on the work and I'm doing what I believe in. Not everybody takes that, and I understand that, but as for me, in my household, this is the direction that we're going.
Thanks, Sally. I'm kind of a bit pissed off. I suppose maybe it's high time I got pissed off. But I'm thinking of the session this morning with Knut and Tim and Chris as mental health professionals, and I'm sick of people not taking this research into influencing practice, and I'm sick of really caring professionals not being allowed to, not because they're being told to do things that are shown by other research. So it's crap, and I felt as a user of mental health services that's cost my well-being, that certain types of therapies and support approaches aren't legitimized. So I am annoyed by it, I'm frustrated by it, but I suppose I'm with you at the end of the day, Kitrina. We've got to do it anyway. If nobody's listening, I'm still, we need to try. Or if not many people are listening, we need to try. But I'm going to stop ranting. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, really moving, interesting pieces of work. Thank you so much. There's 2 points. The first of which is, I think, just to sort of echo the sentiment that it's similar in sort of education, by way that the great folly for me in education, as someone that sort of worked in there as teachers and senior years and all that kind of thing, is that we try to quantify that which we can't quantify. And we talked, my friend there talked about the idea that we never commit to this word love. I'm assuming you're sort of drawing on Bell Hooks' work there, which is really interesting. But education is the same. We talk about sort of empathy for students and children, but we never talk about love. For me, education is an act of love. But just to sort of reflect on what was being talked about there, and I guess this takes the form of a question, for these wonderful pieces, in terms of the historical context in which you find yourself producing your work, there's something really interesting about how you challenge traditions and the status quo, both through your sort of academic pursuits and methodologies. And it may not be your intention to challenge them, but it certainly sort of does, challenging sort of more traditional quantifiable research methods. But I wonder, in terms of your artwork as well, if we look at the hegemony of art, it becomes that which is commercial and sellable. I sort of draw on Adorno here and his idea of the culture industry, and if we can depoliticize people, then we can sell you music about sex and consumerism, and that's that's what's marketable. And I wonder how are you able to, or is it, I don't know, what am I asking? Is it a resilience, or how do you stay resilient enough that you are able to produce work and produce art that consistently challenges the hegemon, really?
Snap, snap, snap. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm not interested in goodness. It's what is the work good for? And if the participants, it's meaningful to them, it's doing the work. And that's what I think we focus on. I'm not trying to be a good songwriter, and I don't think I ever can be. I'm not going to be commercial, but I try and immerse myself in the work and work with my participants and communities, and I trust the work and they validate it, nobody else.
I think, yeah, well said. And the two that sprung to mind for me is joy in the form, from making a noise and the wonder of that, and the community that Kitrina's created and others create. Those are the...
Thanks. I just picked up on your word resilience. Yes. Yeah, I mean, if you choose a methodology like this, you've got to be of a certain character, I think. And a lot of people, I mean, just reading The Ethnographic Eye, Carolyn Ellis is like, oh, she didn't choose the methodology, chose her. And I was in the library reading her book going, oh, I didn't choose it, it chose me. You know, it's kind of, when you found autoethnography, you know you found it. And for me, when I found Dalcroze Eurythmics, which was my music thing, I knew that it had found me. And so there's been a reciprocity from my professional practice and now with autoethnography. So, and in both capacities, I've had to be so resilient. I mean, not so resilient, so, yeah, I don't know if that's, it doesn't seem a sufficient enough a word, but it's been really, really tough. And so, yeah, it's not for the faint-hearted. I think I used that phrase with Ros today. It's not for the faint-hearted. But I think if you know you're doing the right thing for you, you'll find a way. That I know. But you need to want it, and you need to still be in love with your topic. For me, 7 years down the line. I'll get there, I'll get there.
I'm so glad that you repeated the word love, which was a part of your question. And of course, we all know that love is under-theorized, right? In its critical intentionalities about self, our relationship with others, and the power to sort of transform the world through a kind of critical, embodied, and activist form of love, right? And so when I think of performance autoethnography, I'm thinking about love in a kind of critical way. I'm thinking about people embodying those things that they are passionate about, that they are hope-filled about, right? And that they want to show it in an embodied, critical kind of way in the company of others, putting their bodies on the line as evidence of that passion, of that care, of that communication, of that hope, of that activism, of that call to arms, right? About what it is that we do in ways that are both particular in the auto, but generalizable in the human experience that invites us all, right, to engage. I often think about autoethnography and specifically performance autoethnography as establishing templates of sociality. Not templates of doing the same thing over and over, but a template of critical sense-making in the company and in the public of others. Does that make sense? This has been a phenomenal performance. Panel, please help me again to thank our three presenters.